No one in that hall was ready for what happened next, and neither will you. Amara was born into a peaceful, loving home. Her father, Mr. Okafor, was a hard-working businessman who sold building materials in the city. Her mother, whom everyone called Mama Amara, was known in the whole neighborhood as a kind woman who always had food to share and advice to give. They were not rich, but their house was full of laughter. In the evenings, people passing by could hear Mr. Okafor's loud jokes and Mama Amara's laughter as they ate together with their only child. When Amara was 5 years old, everything changed. One weekend, her mother traveled for a women's program at church in another town. Amara remembered waving at the car as it left the compound. That night, there was a knock on the door. 2 men from the church stood outside with red eyes. They sat her father down and told him there had been an accident on the highway. The bus tumbled. Only one person survived, and it was not his wife. That night, the laughter in their home died. Mr. Okafor cried like a child. He held Amara to his chest and kept saying, "What will I do now? What will I do now?" Amara did not fully understand death, but she knew her mother was gone and her father was broken. The days that followed were full of relatives, church members, and crying. After the burial, everyone went back to their lives, but for Amara and her father, life was no longer the same. He threw himself into work. He woke early, came home late, and started traveling more. He said it was to forget pain, but it only made him more distant. Neighbors and relatives began to say, "You can't raise this girl alone. You need a woman in this house. The child needs a mother." At first, he refused, but after years of pressure and loneliness, he finally agreed to consider remarriage. That was how Ngozi entered their story. Ngozi was introduced by a family friend. She was in her early 30s with smooth skin and a sharp tongue that she hid very well. When she first came to visit, she helped in the kitchen, laughed at Mr. Okafor's jokes, and held Amara's hand like she really cared. She cooked tasty meals and called Amara my daughter. People said, "Ah, God has answered your prayer. This one is a good woman." After a simple traditional wedding, Ngozi moved into the house. In the beginning, while her husband was around, she behaved like the perfect wife and stepmother. She woke early, prepared breakfast, ironed Amara's school uniform, and spoke softly. But once he traveled for business, her true character appeared. On the first morning after he left, Amara was still asleep when she felt cold water splash on her face. "So you will sleep until noon?" Ngozi shouted. "Are you the only one in this house?" From that day, Amara became the house help. She swept, mopped, cooked, washed clothes, and still had to keep up with school. If she made a small mistake, Ngozi insulted her. "You are lazy like your mother's people. You think beauty will feed you? If not for me, your father would have thrown you away." Whenever Mr. Okafor returned from his trips, Ngozi changed. She became gentle again, asked Amara about school, and even took small gifts to Amara's room. Amara tried to tell her father the truth once, but Ngozi overheard and later warned her. "If you ever open your mouth to spoil my name, I will make sure your father hates you. Keep quiet if you know what is good for you." Amara decided to endure in silence. She focused on her books. She knew education was her way out. Years passed. She grew into a beautiful, intelligent young woman. By 19, she was in university studying international relations. Lecturers liked her because she was serious, respectful, and always ready to help others. She also joined a campus fellowship where she often told God, "Please, don't let my story end in suffering. Use my life for something good." But for Ngozi, all this success was a problem. Ngozi could not have a child. At first, she and Mr. Okafor thought it was stress. Then they started going from one hospital to another. Every time, the doctors said the same thing. "There is nothing medically wrong. Keep trying." Months turned into years. Ngozi watched her friends carry babies on their backs and felt pain in her chest. She began to fear that if anything happened to her husband, all his property would go to Amara, the child of another woman. Bitterness entered her heart. Instead of seeing Amara as a stepdaughter, she began to see her as a rival. One night, after another hospital appointment that ended with, "Just be patient," Ngozi traveled secretly to a native doctor in a nearby village. She told him, "I want my husband to forget his daughter. I want him to love only me." The man looked at her, shook his head, and said, "That girl is not ordinary. Her mother's spirit is walking with her. If you try to harm her, it will not end well for you." Ngozi's face hardened. "If I cannot make him forget her, then I will make her disappear," she said. She left that shrine with anger boiling inside her. A few weeks later, she contacted some area boys through a friend. She told them Amara had stolen from the family, and she wanted them to teach her a lesson and drop her far away. She gave them Amara's photo, school schedule, and some money. What they would actually do, she didn't want to know. All she wanted was for the girl to vanish. It happened one evening after lectures. Amara was walking towards the main road when a black van slowed beside her. Before she could react, a hand covered her mouth and she was dragged inside. They tied her hands, blindfolded her, and drove for a long time. When the van finally stopped, she heard crickets, drums, and strange chanting. They pulled off the blindfold. She saw a thick forest and a small shrine with red cloths hanging everywhere. An old man with chalk marks on his face came out. He started to chant but then stopped suddenly and stared at her. "Who brought this girl here?" he asked, his voice shaking. The men replied, "Our madame sent her. We were told to bring her for cleansing." The old man stepped back. "Are you people mad? Can't you see the light around her? Her mother's spirit is standing behind her. If I touch her, you and I will both die. Carry her away from here now." Fear gripped the men. They untied Amara's hands and ran back to the van, leaving her alone in the dark forest. Amara stood there shaking, not knowing which way to go. She began to walk and walk, praying under her breath. After some hours, she saw a dusty road and followed it until she reached a small town. She had no money, no phone, and no idea where she was. For days, she survived by begging. She slept in front of closed shops and uncompleted buildings. Sometimes people gave her leftover food. Sometimes she drank only water. Each morning she prayed, "God, don't let me die here. Don't let my father think I ran away." Back home, Ngozi pretended to cry. She told Mr. Okafor that Amara had left for school and never came back. She even went with him to report at the police station. Posters with Amara's picture were pasted around town. Mr. Okafor could not sleep. He blamed himself for traveling so much and leaving her. He called relatives, visited hospitals and mortuaries, searched everywhere. Months passed. Nothing was found. His love for Ngozi grew weak. But he was broken and tired, so he simply withdrew from both of them and from the world. Meanwhile, in that strange town, Amara's life took another turn. One afternoon, as she sat by the roadside begging, a black jeep stopped near her. A young man stepped out. He was in his early 30s, well-dressed, obviously wealthy. His name was Tunde, a tech entrepreneur who had made a lot of money from software and mobile apps. He looked at Amara and felt something shift inside him. Even though her clothes were dirty and she looked thin, her eyes were clear. There was dignity in the way she sat. He gave her some money and drove off, but he could not stop thinking about her. 3 days later, he drove back to that same spot. She was still there. This time he asked, "What are you doing here? Where is your family?" At first, she was quiet, but his voice was gentle, so she told him everything, from her mother's death to the wicked stepmother, the kidnapping, and how she had been living on the streets. Tunde listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, "You don't deserve this life. I want to help you, but I also want to know what kind of person you are. Will you work if I give you a job?" "Yes," Amara replied quickly. "I'll do anything that is clean." He took her to his house and gave her work as a maid. She was given her own small room, clean clothes, and regular food. For the first time in a long while, she slept on a bed. In Tunde's house, Amara worked with joy. She arranged the kitchen, cleaned the sitting room, helped the cook, and treated everyone with respect. The security guards liked her because she greeted them kindly. Tunde's younger cousins, who sometimes visited, also liked her because she listened to them and helped with homework. But some of the older staff were not happy. They felt Tunde was paying too much attention to this new girl. Whenever he returned from work, he would ask, "How is Amara? Is she eating well? Does she need anything?" They became jealous. One day, Tunde discovered that his very expensive wristwatch, a gift from an important investor, was missing. He searched his room and couldn't find it. The jealous workers saw an opportunity. They went to him and said, "Oga, we noticed that the new girl has been going near your room. Please, we don't want problem, but we think you should check her things." Reluctantly, Tunde agreed. They went to Amara's room together. Tunde opened her small bag and found nothing. But when he lifted her pillow, the missing watch was there. Amara froze. "Sir, I swear I didn't take it. I don't even know how it got there," she cried. Tunde looked hurt. "I trusted you," he said quietly. "Even if you needed money, you could have asked." He told her to pack her things and leave. That night, Amara sat outside the gate with her small bag, tears running down her face. The street felt familiar in a painful way. She prayed again. "God, I thought you had started helping me. Please, don't let this be the end." Days later, strange things began to happen in Tunde's house. The washing machine spoiled 3 times in 1 week. The generator caught fire. 2 of the staff who pushed for Amara to be searched fell seriously ill. They both had strange dreams of a woman in white pointing at them. Tunde began to feel disturbed. Something told him to check the security camera recordings from the day the watch went missing. When he watched the footage, he saw one of the jealous workers sneaking into Amara's room with something shiny in his hand, then coming out quickly without knocking. Tunde was shocked. He realized he had judged Amara too fast. He drove back to the area where he first found her. After asking around, he located her sleeping under a shed near a market. She sat up in fear when she saw him, thinking he came to accuse her again. Instead, he knelt slightly and said, "Amara, I'm sorry. I wronged you. I saw the camera. I know you didn't steal from me. Please come back. But this time, not as a maid." Amara stared at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I want to help you finish school and chase your dreams," he said. "Tell me, what do you want to become?" Tears filled her eyes. "I want to stand for people who don't have a voice, for women and children. I want to be a diplomat one day." Tunde smiled. "Then let's start working towards that." He hired private tutors to help her catch up on missed schoolwork. With his support, she registered again for university in a different city, this time in international relations and development studies. She studied like her life depended on it. After graduation, with Tunde's connections and her own excellence, she got an internship at the United Nations. While Amara's life was rising, Ngozi's own life was collapsing. Even after her wicked plan succeeded and she thought Amara was gone forever, she still could not have a child. That was when she started going from one spiritualist to another. Some told her to bring goats. Others told her to bathe naked at midnight in a river. She tried many things. Her money finished, but her womb remained empty. One day a friend told her, "There is a powerful woman in a deep forest who never fails. If she can't help you, nobody can." Desperate, Ngozi followed her. They walked for hours until they reached a small hut. An old woman with long, dirty hair sat outside, stirring something in a pot. She told Ngozi to walk backward into the hut as a sign of respect. When they sat down, Ngozi began to cry. "Mama, I want a child. I have money, I have a husband, but I'm barren. I will do anything." The old woman looked at her closely. "You have offended the spirits," she said quietly. "You mistreated a child who was put in your care. You sold her. Until that blood is appeased, your womb will remain closed." Ngozi's heart jumped. She knew immediately which child the woman meant. She did not tell the full truth, but she begged, "Please, just help me." The woman gave her a calabash with a dark liquid. "When you reach home, drink everything. But as you are leaving this place, don't look back even once." Ngozi obeyed. On the way out, she heard strange sounds, like voices arguing behind her, but she refused to turn. At home, she drank the liquid. A few weeks later, she started feeling sick. She went to the hospital. Tests showed she was finally pregnant. She was overjoyed. She started buying baby clothes, baby shoes, baby bed. But months passed, and something strange happened. Her stomach kept growing, larger than normal, but she did not go into labor. 1 year passed, then 2. Her belly became huge, heavy, and painful, but there was no baby. Doctors were confused. They had never seen such a case. The scans were unclear. Some said it was a rare tumor.
Some suggested surgery, but every time she was scheduled for it, something stopped it from happening. Either the surgeon fell sick, or the electricity failed, or some other emergency came up. People in the community started whispering. They said, "Ngozi is carrying a curse, not a child." Business began to fail for Mr. Okafor. Goods got lost at sea. His shop was robbed. His car broke down again and again. He became restless, angry, and tired. He stopped talking much. Sometimes he sat in the sitting room with his head in his hands, wondering where everything went wrong. One day, in complete frustration, Ngozi went back to the old woman. "I did what you told me," she cried. "I drank everything. I became pregnant. But see me now. It has been years. I can't give birth. People are laughing at me. My husband's life is spoiling. Help me." The old woman shook her head slowly. "You are not carrying a child," she said. "You are carrying your guilt. The only way you can ever have peace is if you find that girl you wronged and beg for forgiveness. Until then, this is your burden." Ngozi left there shaking. She tried to contact the men who kidnapped Amara, but some had died in gang fights and others had traveled or disappeared. Nobody knew where the girl was. Years went by. Her belly remained the same, heavy like a stone, reminding her every day of what she had done.
Then one morning, everything changed. Mr. Okafor was at home watching television. He had stopped going out much. He just flipped through channels absent-mindedly. A program on women's empowerment came on. He almost changed it, but then he heard the presenter mention African youth leaders and United Nations. A young woman came on screen, standing behind a podium with the UN logo. She was confident, elegant, and speaking clearly about girls' education in Africa. On the bottom of the screen, her name appeared. Amara Okafor, United Nations Youth Diplomat. Mr. Okafor jumped up from his chair. His heart began to beat fast. He moved closer to the TV and stared. The jawline, the eyes, the way she smiled slightly between sentences. "Ngozi!" he shouted. "Ngozi, come! Come quickly!" Ngozi came, carrying her heavy stomach carefully. He pointed at the screen with a shaking hand. "Look, that is my daughter. That is Amara. She is alive." Ngozi stood there frozen. She recognized Amara immediately and felt the room spinning. Her secret, which she thought would follow her to the grave, was now standing on an international stage. From that day, Mr. Okafor did not rest. He contacted the TV station, the organization that hosted the program, and anyone he thought could help him reach his daughter. It was not easy. Amara was now a known figure with many people around her. Emails went unanswered. Phone calls bounced. Months passed. Finally, they received news that Amara would be attending a youth conference in their country. Her name and face were on the posters. On the day of the event, Mr. Okafor dressed carefully in a simple native outfit. Ngozi wrapped her huge stomach with extra cloth and walked slowly beside him. They entered the big hall quietly and sat at the back. When Amara came on stage to speak, the hall clapped. She spoke about her journey, about girls who were forgotten, about the power of giving someone a second chance. She did not mention her stepmother, but she talked about pain, forgiveness, and hope in a way that made many people wipe their eyes. After the speech, as she stepped down from the podium, Mr. Okafor could not hold himself. He rushed forward, calling, "Amara! Amara!" She turned, surprised. For a second she saw only an old man. Then she looked again and saw the familiar lines in his face, the eyes she had known since childhood. At first she did not recognize him, but when he said, in a broken voice, "My daughter," her heart stopped. Tears poured from her eyes. She ran into his arms and held him tight. People in the hall started to clap slowly, moved by the scene, even those who didn't understand what was happening. Then Ngozi came forward, her massive belly in front of her like a burden. She could barely walk. She sank to her knees in front of Amara, breathing hard. "Please forgive me," she said, her voice shaking. "I was blinded by jealousy. I am the reason you disappeared. I paid those men to take you away. I destroyed my own life trying to destroy yours." The whole hall went quiet. Mr. Okafor stepped back in shock. "What are you saying?" he shouted. "Ngozi, is it true? You were behind Amara's disappearance?" Everyone turned to look at her. Ngozi began to sob loudly. "Yes," she cried. "It was me. I did it. I thought if she left, I would have peace. Instead, I have been carrying this thing for years. They told me the only way to be free is if she forgives me. Please, Amara, I beg you." Mr. Okafor felt his legs grow weak. His heart pounded with anger and pain. He remembered all the years of searching, the nights he couldn't sleep, the money he spent, the way his love for his own daughter had been poisoned by suspicion and confusion. For a moment, it looked like he would hit Ngozi. But he only shook his head and covered his face with his hands. "How could you?" he whispered. "How could you do this to us?" Amara looked at Ngozi for a long time. Tears rolled down her face. She could see the fear, the guilt, the weight of years in the older woman's eyes. She could also see her father, broken and shaking, standing there with two kinds of pain, one for his lost child and one for the betrayal by his wife. After some time, she took a deep breath. "I forgive you," she said quietly. "I am not the same girl you tried to hurt. God turned my pain into strength. I will not let hatred control me." As soon as she said those words, Ngozi screamed. She grabbed her stomach. Everyone watched in disbelief as the huge belly began to shrink, slowly at first, then faster, until it went flat like someone letting air out of a balloon. Ngozi fell forward, breathing hard. People shouted. Some started praying. Some clapped. Mr. Okafor knelt on the floor, crying and thanking God for bringing his daughter back and exposing the truth. Later that evening, after the hall had emptied and the surprise had settled a little, the three of them sat in a small room backstage, Amara, her father, and Ngozi. Ngozi told the full story. She confessed how she had planned the kidnapping, the visit to the old woman, the fake pregnancy, everything. She did not hide anything. Mr. Okafor wept as he listened. When she finished, he was silent for a long time. Then he said, "I don't know if I can ever see you the same way again. But for the sake of God and for the sake of my daughter, I will not curse you. Let God judge between us." Amara put her hand on his shoulder. "Daddy, we have lost enough years. Let's not lose more to anger," she said softly. Tunde, who had attended the conference as Amara's guest, joined them and greeted Mr. Okafor respectfully. In the weeks that followed, families were introduced properly. Later, Tunde asked for Amara's hand in marriage, and with joy, mixed with tears for all the lost time, her father agreed. Their wedding was simple but beautiful. People who heard their story were amazed at how someone who once begged on the street could stand as a bride beside a billionaire, not just as his wife, but as a partner in purpose. Together, Amara and Tunde started a foundation focused on girls' education and women's rights. They built learning centers, gave scholarships, and visited villages to encourage families not to give up on their daughters. As for Ngozi, she went back to her village after everything. Her belly was flat now, but the memory of what she carried never left her. She began to live quietly. She joined the women's group in the church, helped widows with small business ideas, and often took food to orphans. Whenever people asked why she was so passionate about helping others, she simply said, "I am trying to make peace with my past." And that is how Amara's story turned from pain into purpose. Because sometimes life hits us with things we do not deserve. But if we refuse to let bitterness win, our scars can become stories that heal others. Let this be a reminder that no matter where you are, hope can still rise from the ashes. If this story shook you, inspired you, or touched your heart, show some love. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and if you made it this far, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring life-changing stories to the world. Until next time, stay blessed.